Hello everyone, welcome back to the management information session. Let us continue our discussion with the e-business technology. Let us recall what we had discussed in the previous session. In the previous session we had discussed about the e-business systems, how does e-business system operate, what are its constraints, and we have seen about the e-commerce system, why it is different, what do you mean by e-commerce, how it is different from the e-business system. We have also seen the e-commerce is an additive and an important congruent of an e-business system. We have seen what does e-commerce include. We have also seen why e-commerce is totally a different one. What makes it different from. So when we say about different, what from it is different from, which is different from a traditional or a conventional system. How it is different, we have seen those points, and we have seen the difference between the digital and the traditional market, and we have also seen the various benefits of disintermediation. So what happens with the mediator or a mediation between the manufacturer and the customer? If you remove it, what would be the benefits? We have seen this with the help of a representation diagram, and finally we have seen with the various categories of it. Let us continue our discussion with respect to the topic. So when we talk about the e-business, we have seen it is usage of digital technology with the internet. When we say e-business, e-commerce or anything, so it involves two things. One, the technology, and also it can be done only with the support of internet. So when we talk about the internet, now let us concentrate this part in detail. Till now we have seen about the various aspects of digital technology. Let us now concentrate on internet. So we'll look into it, providing internet information. So this information, internet information, can be categorized as a service provider. Means internet is nothing but a service. So it can be categorized into three parts. First one is the internet service provider itself. We call it as ISP in short, which means internet service provider. Second one, we have online service provider. That is online service provider, OSP. And finally, the third one is application service provider. In short, ASP. So these are the three main kinds of service providers we have. One is the internet service provider, second one is online service provider, and third one is application service provider. Let us talk into one by one in detail. The first one is the internet service provider. So all these three things comes under the category of providing services, but the type of service is been totally differentiated between one another. That's how these three are classified. The first one is the internet service provider. It is a company, okay, that provides individuals or other companies to access the internet along with additional related services such as web hosting, website building, developing other online activities. So these kinds of services are rendered by ISP, and ISP as an equipment and a telecommunication line access required to have a point of presence on the internet for different geographical areas. We can consider this as the recent telephone service providers, like you have a BSNL, like Airtel and many others. What they do here, the first is they provide you a dedicated line, though you might be scattered, your house might or office might be scattered in different geographical locations where you request a service from them. What they do, they provide a point of contact. What kind of point? They provide you a telephone communication line. Okay, they establish a line from your home device to their devices through a telephone. So there they provide you the connectivity using the different equipments. I do not want it to go in detail with respect to those technical aspects. Here we mainly concentrate on the service provider. So these larger IPs, that is internet service providers, have their own high speed leased lines. When you look into the service provider, they have different high speed levels or the different tariffs. If you pay that much amount, we will give you 2 Mbps. If the amount is raised, we give up you 5 Mbps. Means what are these? The 2 Mbps, 5 Mbps, 10 Mbps, 20 Mbps. These are the different leased lines they have. So based on your requirement, you can opt for the services. In those services, you get the telecommunication services, even they provide you the call provision. So calling up, receiving the calls, making your calls, and also with the same line, you will be able to get the internet access to the devices you connect to it. So among the largest nations and the region service providers are in India, we mainly concentrate on BSNL, Airtel, and also Reliance. There might be many others. Just for your reference, I had just quoted these three. These are the three main important service providers. So we call this as the internet service providers. When you talk about the services rendered by these service providers, the first one, as I said, is a web hosting. So you know what is web hosting and other things. Means developing a web and hosting it on an internet so that you can establish the maintenance and other things. What do you establish? You establish your business, and what do you maintain? You maintain the various information over the internet or online. So these can be done. This is one of the services of ISP. Secondly, hard disk storage. Most of your information which you do on the business with respect to your any of the remote place can be backed up. So whatever data is there in the hard disk, you can be backing up those files for the secure storing in the ISP. This is also one of the services, and making the internet or e-business available 24/7 so that your business is accessible to everyone 24/7 all the time is the one of the services of ISP, and it supports all kind of online activities like the resources, services, maintenance, and keeping their web server running. This is the importance of having internet service provider. Next, one more, when we talk about ISP, there is one more concept involved, that is nowadays we call it as WISP, because most of them are familiar with the activities of wireless now. We don't prefer to have only wired. Now itself, most of them we have wireless activities or wireless routers in our homes, office, schools, colleges, everywhere. So extension of ISP is WISP, that is wireless internet service provider. So we call it as it is another member of ISP family, that is WISP. An ISP that allows the subscribers to connect to the server at the designated hotspot or access points using wireless communication. You know that is the devices they provide you which renders the service like a hotspot. You have a limited range. Through that range, all the wireless gadgets or devices can access the internet services from that service provider. This type of ISP, that is internet service providers, offers access to internet and the web from anywhere within the zone of coverage. So each device has its own coverage area. Within that coverage area, those information can be accessed. This was about the ISP. So when you talk about the ISP, you will be having the wired connection, and also you can have the access point. We call it as the wireless hotspots. Second one is the service provider. So an online service provider offers an extensive array of unique services such as its own version of web browser. So when you talk about online services, here we provide the internet, here we provide the services for the usage of internet. Even it might be providing a browser itself might be one of the services. When you talk about the term online service provider, helps us to distinguish ISP that offers internet access and their own online content. So here it just provides the internet. Here you will be able to access their own internet content. Means here the content accessibility is possible. Connecting the internet through an OSP is an alternate way of connecting through one of the national ISPs. Means here through which you will be able to connect to the online service things, such as you might be having a regional ISP, regional service provider, national service provider, through which through those things application online you will be able to get online services, something like government agencies, where you can have connecting to that portal or that application or that services, you will be able to receive all the services that is been rendered by that particular service provider. When I talk about these things, these are totally different. Here we only provide the internet facility, here we provide the services in association with that particular internet. Third one is the application service provider. An application service provider is a company that offers an organization access over the internet to the systems and the related services that would otherwise have located in a personal or organization computers. Means through their own applications you will be able to access their servers or their machines or their information. They offer this kind of services so that anyone who wishes to have the information can log into those applications in order to get the information. Employing the services as an ASP, that is application service provider, is essential. So outstanding or outsourcing part of a company's business logic. Many of the time they provide the outsourcing of information. So if you want to dismantle or distribute the information, they use these kind of application service provider, where the company's information basic intention is to provide the information or the service to others, where they have their own application through which you or anyone who wishes to access those information can access it through that application. So these are the three main types of the providing internet information. By these three main information providers you will be able to access. Based on the services, these three are categorized, that is ISP, the OSP and ASP. When we talk about the business, that is e-business, we say it is a global activity. So when you tell that it is a global activity, we need to know how is that it is connectivity done. So here we will concentrate on the connectivity. How does the e-business makes it globally accessible? One of the biggest benefits of the internet is the ability to allow organization to perform business with anyone. Listen this. Here the internet, the biggest benefit is of the internet. The internet is supporting it to allow organizations to perform the business operations with anyone, anywhere, anytime. This is the key part. Anyone, anywhere, at any time. With these features, this e-business is said to have a connectivity to everyone, anyone, everywhere, anytime. So we call this as a global activity. So whereas e-commerce is buying and selling of goods and providing services over the internet, e-commerce refers only to online transaction. But when I talk about e-business, it is derived from the term e-commerce itself. It is conducting the business on the internet. So this would be very well supported. Not only buying and selling, but also providing services and collaborating with the various business partners. So when we talk about the business globally, we need to have some models associated to it. So what are those? We say it as business models. What do you mean by model? A model is a smaller replication of a bigger entity. So e-business model is an approach for conducting electronic business over the internet. A business transaction, especially when you talk about e-business transaction, takes place between two major entities. What are those two major entities? It is between the business and the customer. These are the two major entities where the business happen in any of the e-business. So whenever we talk about e-business, it is a e-commerce or e-business, it happens between two entities. One is the business and second one is the customer. That's why the disintermediary diagram was shown earlier, where we eradicate or remove all the intermediate entities. Now we directly have the business with the manufacturer and the end user, that is a customer. So all e-business activities happen within a framework of two types of business relationship. What are those two types of framework or two types of business relationship? The first one is the exchange of products and services between the business. So here two entities are involved, both are business, where they exchange the products or the services between one another. Is nothing but a B2B, where both the business organization would be sharing their products or exchanging some of the services between one another. The second one is exchanging the product or services with the customer. So who is exchanging the product or services? Is nothing but business. The business is exchanging the product or its services between the customer. So here we mainly talk about the two entities, the business and the customer. So there are four basic models or main models that can be derived as a business model. Let us look into it. Business models. Now I told you there are two entities that are involved in the business. So how do we derive those models? So let us use a representation. One, business, and second one is the customer. Again we have a business and customer. So I have this graph. Box kind of representation. Look at this now. We have the vertical representation as well as the horizontal representation of the two entities. Now, if a business is done between another business, look at this, business with another business, then we call it as B2B. In many of the books you directly encounter B2B, B2C. Now how did this happen? This is a very good representation and explanation that can be offered for this explanation. And second one, if a business is done with the customer, it is B2C. Now, if a customer is involved with a business, then it is C2B. If a business activity happens between the customer and the customer, then we represent it as C2C. Now, this is very clear representation with respect to the basic business model. This is one of the important question that would be arise for your examination. Even you can see the importance of this question asked in many of the question paper. What do you mean by a business model? Explain the various business model that are associated with respect to the e-business. Then in that case, you need to explain what is e-business, e-business model, and all the 4 different modules. So let us look into the first one. When we talk about the B2B, so B2B happens to be a very good representation. I'll write it with a representation and show it. The first one is nothing but B2B. What happens here? We have the internet. I say for any activity, internet is the hub. Okay. Now you find various industries. I am representing this as a buildings, don't mistake. Industry, some factories, some other buildings, some. Okay, these are the different industries. Here, the B2B applies to business of buying and selling to each other over the internet. So these are the different business organization where buying and selling happens between one another, that is B2B. We are talking about B2B, between one another over the internet. So I'll connect like this. So what happens here? All the organizations or different manufacturing service providers are connected to one another over the internet, through which they exchange the information, buying and selling of activities, providing services. Next we talk about the next model, that is B2C. Now again here, when I talk about e-business, internet is the center, so I don't disturb it. As the name suggests, what's happening here? It's a business that is offering services to the customer. There might be some food manufacturing industry. There might be some of the product manufacturing company. There might be some factories that manufacture some other things, and that would be supported to various customers. So these, what they do is, these business organizations push their products to the customers over the internet, where customers would be able to buy it through the internet. So here it applies of any business activity that is selling its products or the services to customers over the internet. This is said to be the second one, that is B2 C. Next we have the third model, that is business, customer to business. Now again the internet remains the same. I retain it. Let us represent. Now here customer to business. Now what we see, there are a variety of customers and they offer their services to the various industries. Now it is vice versa here. When I talk about the customers here, they work for it online. They provide different kinds of services to the organization through internet. So this is about the C2B. Next we have one more interesting, that is C2C. Here with respect to customer, here it's a very interesting one. Look at this. Now here a customer is getting benefited with respect to a products or a services from other customer or customers. So there might be n number of customers who get their support and the services from the other customers. That is said to be the C2C activities. So these are the four models, the basic four models that are very much important in order to understand any of the business. So these are the contents I had wished to explain in this session. Thank you very much.